I deeply appreciate this opportunity to appear before an organization whose members contribute every day such important work to the public affairs of our state and of our country. This evening, I came here to speak to you about Vietnam. I do not have to tell you that our people are profoundly concerned about that struggle. There are passionate convictions about the wisest course for our nation to follow. There are many sincere and patriotic Americans who harbor doubts about sustaining the commitment that 3 presidents and 500,000 of our young men have made. And into this mixture of subversion and war, of terror and hope, America has entered with its material power and with its moral commitment. Why?
My given name is Nguyễn Thị Cẩm Vân, and my married name is Van Robbins. I born in Da Nang, December 6, 1952. My father was worked for the army, but he worked in the office. He don't go to battlefield, but he worked in the office. And my mom was just wife. We have total 11 kids. 2 of them were deceased. So now and I have brother just deceased last year due to COVID. And now we have 9 left in our family. I'm a second one, second older. And I have an older brother, so I have to pick up all the work in the house. And my mom, she have like a kid every 2 years or 3 years, sometimes 1 year. So I end up taking care of everybody in the house, to laundry, to cooking. I have to go out in the well to bring all the water in the house so everybody can take a bath, flood the toilet. I have to heat up all the house, all the water, so we can have drinking water. I remember correctly that I get up in the morning, I went to market. I picked up all the food. I come home from school at noon because we sit down at noon. We have 2 hours time frame. People take a nap. I come home, I have to clean up the fish and shrimp. We buy everything really alive, because we go to live market. And I clean them up and cook for everybody. After everybody get done, everybody go take a nap. I do all the dishes. I went back to school at 2 o'clock. I come out at 5. I went to market again, pick up all the food, and come home, cook, do dishes, carry water from the well to inside the house. Everybody went to sleep, and I stay up, hand wash everybody's clothes, carry all the water in and hand wash. We have to hand wash because we don't have a wash machine, and hang them up. And sometime in Da Nang, rain a lot. We have rain long and rainy season, so we have to hang everything outside, inside the house. And after that, I try to get my homework done. So I don't get to bed till be 2 o'clock in the morning. And that's a routine I have to do all the time. And when we're cooking, we don't have stove, on the weekend, I have to go out and pick up all the broken pieces from the tree out the street. And we have 3 pieces of brick, and we lie up the stick, and we cook how we cook. It's really dirty. That's how my life. And my mom, she had baby in my country at that time. That They believe after have the baby, the woman have to stay in bed for three months. Don't do anything. They don't even take the bath. They don't do anything. So I take care of her. I cook for her. I take care of the baby, and then that's my duty. But the same thing was, I don't like the raining season. Raining season, we have to walk to school. We don't have any transportation. We walk on the, we used to wear the wood shoe. I don't know if you remember that. I don't know that you know that. I don't know if you remember, but I wear the wood shoe and we walk, and we have to wear áo dài. And we have to wear áo dài to school every day, so sometimes it's not comfortable, to be wet. And I remember, my dad don't make that much money, so I don't have one áo dài to wear school. I have one áo dài, white collar, went to school, and I have one blue one because we wear blue one on Monday so we can stand out under flag, we sing, national anthem every Monday. That's the only time we wear blue áo dài. The white áo dài I have, so I have to wash them every day. And after I wash áo dài and pants, I have to iron by the iron, but we don't have electric, so we have, so I have to put the charcoal inside the iron and iron them, I work a lot, and as a kid, I carry my whole family.
Henry Walter Robbins, August 3rd, 1947, in St. Louis, Missouri, in Kissaquah, Iowa, mostly. I was adopted in the St. Louis area, but my mom my stepmom had worked down there for a few years, and we stayed down there until I was about 4, I think, and then her family lived in Kissaquah, so she moved back to Kissaquah, and I lived with with her parents, my grandparents, for a while, until my mom got married about 1952. I lived basically in that same area till I was 19. It took us a while to get the farm cleaned up because of the mess when we moved in there. It was a rental. And so I did that for a year, and then I did things like cut down trees and stuff for people that wanted to had these barbecue pits, and they wanted hickory and stuff like that, smoking stuff. So I cut those down. I worked in the hay fields, like baled hay, and then I had a regular job about 2 miles away. A guy had me mow his yard every other week, so I walked up there every other week for $1.50 and worked there. And then as I got older, I worked for a painter, painting houses and barns and stuff for a couple of years. And then I worked for the surveyor, the county surveyor, for a couple of years, surveying roads and laying down blacktop and stuff like that for a couple of years. And then, like I say, 1966, I graduated from high school. And in October of 1966, I went to the Air Force. My dad was a very authoritative person. One, he was a lot older. He was about 20 years older than my mom. And so he was very authoritarian. My mom wasn't. She was a pretty docile person. So most of my run-ins came with my father, and there wasn't nothing too bad. And if he was mad at me, I'd go somewhere out in the middle of nowhere and sit in a tree or sit in a mound of hay or something for the day, and with my dog, and just let it go and find something else to do. So, but we only had a couple of really bad run-ins, and they weren't terrible. It was just he lost his temper a couple of times, and I paid for it. So, but that's not bad.
Catherine May Nguyen Robbins, July 4th, 1976, and I was born in Kissaquah, Iowa. I was the first baby born in Van Buren County Hospital, and so my understanding is they got to have me for free. I was in the newspaper, that was, and plus my dad's dad was actually born on July 4th, 1906. So we shared a birthday. My dad, I mean, they grew up poor. You know, my dad was left with who I know as my grandma. And then I think throughout the course of his like early childhood, she was married a few times. She eventually married my grandpa, who was much older than her. I know that they drank a lot. You know, and I know, you know, he, you know, punished him a lot, like, you know, like spankings and things like that. You know, that's just kind of how things were done back then. I think they weren't like good parents, you know, and kind of left him to kind of figure out things on his own. And, you know, they had a farm, and so they expected him to work on the farm. And he also, you know, played sports, and they were super poor. And so, you know, it was hard for him to fit in. You know, he'd always talk about, you know, how his pants never fit, or, you know, shoes having holes in it. And, you know, I think generally, you know, the poor kids always have a hard time fitting in, right? He does talk about that. You know, I think he was definitely closer to his mom than his dad. You know, like I said, I mean, his dad probably wasn't a very, I mean, he was fine to us, but like we weren't even that close to them. I mean, they lived in Iowa, and you know, I think my parents didn't want to spend every summer vacation in Iowa, so we wouldn't go back, you know, all the time. But yeah, I think, and, you know, and I think my grandpa didn't treat my grandma very well. So I think that was part of his, you know, one of the reasons he wasn't too fond of his dad. He definitely had like a rough childhood.
My dad wasn't a very popular guy, and we were very, very poor. So as far as politics and stuff like that, we weren't involved in it. But the people, for the most part, just was going with the flow. Even when Vietnam started, there wasn't protests and stuff like that in the area. A lot of kids from that area went to Vietnam, especially the poorer ones, because the draft lady there was notorious for drafting the poor people. I just basically it didn't come up on TV a lot, mostly in the newspaper, so just what I read, and we didn't watch TV a lot. My dad didn't let me watch TV. So whatever I heard on the radio, and I didn't hear much, because even though I listened to a station in Chicago, it didn't have much on the war, and the papers didn't have a lot, and it was sick then. It was in the 60s, so the war really wasn't in full swing until 68, 66, 68. I was too poor to go to college, and I was too dumb to figure out how to get it paid for. So and the draft lady said that as soon as I got out of high school, she was going to draft me anyway. So about June, I think, after I got out of high school, let's see, what would be October, September, August. Yeah, June, July. That year, I went ahead and decided I was going to go enlist. I had gotten accepted to about 3 or 4 colleges, but I couldn't get a full scholarship. I was trying to get an athletic scholarship. My grades were good enough, but not for a scholarship. And I got a partial scholarship to a college in Pella, Iowa, but the school was so expensive that I couldn't pay wouldn't have been able to pay the rest of it. So that what motivated me to go to the Air Force. So I figured I'd go to the Air Force and get out and go back to school. That was my goal at the time. I always had a desire to fly, and I didn't know at the time that most of the jobs in the Air Force aren't flying.
And school is probably about a mile from my house. I walk school every day, and I walk back and forth probably 4 times a day at school. I finished high school. After I finished the high school, I went to work. I worked for Army Exchange, that's what they call them. And I work in PS, Army Exchange. I work in the office. I do all the payroll. I do all the invoice. I worked there for a couple of years until they shut down. The PS I work for is in China Beach. I remember one time I was 18, they have a rocket. They drop a rocket, and they have a rocket in front of my neighborhood because we live in Kai, you know, go to the alley, I guess, and they have the drop. And next morning, I was asleep the whole time, and my mom was, she said, well, you heard anything? I said, no. So she took me outside. They have a big hole in the rocket, and nobody get hurt. I'm so surprised. But I remember the war, it really impacted our family, and I would state 1968. We heard a lot of fighting and a lot of shooting. And they don't let nobody go anywhere. We don't have any food to eat. Yeah. We barely have dry and can of fish, and that's really, really struggle for family for a long time because, you know, we have curfew, so you can't go anywhere. We don't have any television, and we don't have any radio in our house. But we can hear that Viet Cong, they hide because very hard to know who the Viet Cong are because we look the same. So they come out in the day, and you know they try to get all information that they can. And at night they come out and they try to torture people and they kill people. And funny thing about it, my brother, father-in-law, he Viet Cong. Okay, his wife Viet Cong, and he didn't know. My old brother married this lady. She lived in Saigon. And for some reason, she came out in Da Nang, and she worked in a nightclub, and my older brother met her, and they got married. They had 2 beautiful daughters. And, you know, I went to Saigon to visit my aunt, and I come to his house, you know, he had a big garage, fixed the car, and he lived normal life. Nobody know that he was spy for Viet Cong. But the good thing about it, the good thing for my family, because he Viet Cong, so when the communist taken over in 1975, my dad don't have to go to jail and go to prison. One good thing about come out with that whole thing. He worked for South Vietnamese, and I also have my older brother and my couple younger brother joined the army fight too. But lucky he have a powder, so he kept them out of trouble. I don't know, you know that Viet Cong is not nice people. I have one uncle, he live on Huế. He is major in army. He has 7 kids. And he just built a beautiful house in Huế. And when they took over, they kicked everybody out, even my aunt. They took over the new house that he built, and they put him in prison for 13 years. And you know, I heard some story about how they torture him every single day and make sure that he just keep, you know, all the information and what they want to do. And he said he just have a little bowl rice to eat and lay on the concrete floor for 13 years. And they finally let him out, and he come over here. He lived, his family relocated in Indiana.
My great-grandfather was in the Spanish-American War. My grandfather was in the World War I. I had 5, 6 uncles in World War II. A lot of people who lived in Iowa were in World War II. I had a friend across the street that was in Korea. I mean, it's just an automatic thought in that day and age, and it's not now, I understand, but in that day and age, it's just something you got to do. I actually, and you're going to think this is funny, I actually had a good time in Vietnam. I liked the country and I liked the people, and the biggest problem I had when I was in the military, they wouldn't let us go off the base because it was restricted for Air Force people. But you know, I was on DC-3s. I flew. I have probably 100 or more missions, and so I saw almost all of Vietnam from the air. I was in Saigon originally for about 4 months, and then they sent me to Da Nang. Nobody wanted to be in Da Nang, basically, because Da Nang was always getting hit by rockets, and flying up there was somewhat more dangerous than flying out of Saigon, because Saigon you never saw much. I repaired the electronics on the reconnaissance electronics on the DC-3s, and then they had to be checked out, so I went out on all the check flights and stuff like that to check the electronics, make sure they worked before the planes were sent out. And then probably once a week or so, or twice a week, we went out on missions with the airplanes because they were going out in some areas they wanted to make sure they got the data, and we go out and make sure the equipment works. Sometimes you have to spend a whole trip out there working on that equipment because it would go out. So you try to get it working so they could get their data. The data was really crucial because it tracked where all the enemy was at. It kind of tracked what direction they looked like they were going. We had 4 radio operators on that plane, 4 consoles of radio operators, and they understood Vietnamese, Laotian, Thai, whatever they needed to, and they'd listen to that radio for 8, 10, 12 hours, trying to understand what the people were doing and thinking. I came home because I had to get another security clearance. I had a top secret, a little bit more than a top secret, doing that job, and I had to come home and redo my security clearance, and it took about a month, and I went back over. I went back making 10 times more of that money as a civilian, doing basically the same job, and except I didn't have to fly. So I was doing basically the same job. I lived downtown. Every 6 weeks we got a week off. And so I traveled all over Vietnam, and I went to Thailand, Singapore, Taiwan, Korea, Japan, Philippines. I mean, and sometimes I just take time and drive over into Laos.
I know my family need money, and the money I make, I give to my dad, and he just give me allowance. I enjoy it. I enjoy work there. At that time, PS pay people a lot of money to work there, but only thing that it's a long way for me to go to work, so my dad had to take me to work every day from where I live and go over PS, because we live in Da Nang, and PS, you have to go over China Beach. So it's a long way. I work in restaurant for my cousin, and Hank come there, he eats all the time. But for a year and a half, I don't want to talk to him at all, because, not that my dream is marry American and come over here. It's not one of my goals. My goal was go to work, get a good job, and have my mom and dad, have my siblings. That's one of my goals. And my goal is lies to go in Saigon, because Saigon have more opportunity for the job, and Da Nang it's too small. So the way for a year and a half, I don't even speak to Hank, because I don't have no reason to talk to him. I was dating guys. One he in the lieutenant in the Navy, and be dating him, and I find out that he have a wife from some different city. So I was upset. So I have a friend of mine. She worked in the same restaurant. She worked in the day, and I worked from 3 until midnight. So she talked to Hank, and she tried to connect us together. Yeah, that's how I met Hank.
She was worked at the BXs around the base. She worked at Freedom Hill, worked at the base in Da Nang, and then she worked up on another BX, and she was basically an accountant. When that was all done, there's 2 restaurants in town. One was really good and pricey, and then she worked in this one that was nice but not so pricey and so forth. So I ate breakfast and lunch there when I was off, and I eat breakfast there every day, and then I'd eat dinner there quite a bit at night. And so I kind of just, it's kind of funny because we really don't know how this really ended up happening.
I don't think my dad like Hank too much because he American. So I come home and I talk to him about, and he told me I just rolled up the ceiling so big, and he said, what do you mean? He said, well, I want to have a meeting with him. So I said, okay. So I told him that we're going to get married. And so I asked him, you need me to come with you? He said, no, I don't need you to translate. I'll get somebody else because you're not going to tell me the truth. So when he met Han, and he looked at him and said, well, I thought he older than that, but he young, So after he have a meeting with him, and after that he approved, I'm married. We have a big wedding. We have 3 parties. We have Vietnamese tradition wedding.
We had a huge wedding. That one party we had over 200 people, and the other 2 we probably had anywhere from 20 to 50 people. We got married in March of 1975, and huge wedding. You won't see too many Americans get married like I did over there. And when we got through that, we went to Dalat, and on our honeymoon we got up there, and a couple days after we got there, the North Vietnamese surrounded the town, and but the message was to the hotel, people can go ahead and do what they want, we're not going to bother anybody, just go do what you want. But that's what we did, and then a couple of days or a day or so later, they came back and said, you got 48 hours to get out of town. If you're gonna leave, get out. If not, when we come in, it's whatever happens. So we went down to the airport. We were supposed to be out the next day anyway, so we packed up and went to the airport the next day. And we're standing in line. We get up there, and the manager's not going to let us get on the airplane. And I said, well, I got a ticket that says I'm going to get on the airplane. We got back to Da Nang, and we packed up all of our stuff because I was notified I was getting sent to Saigon, so we packed up all of our stuff, put a lot of it on Air America, which is a CIA group over there but they flew us all around and everything like that too. Put a lot of our stuff on there. We took our other bags and got on Air Vietnam, and we went to Saigon. Well, in that time, the North Vietnamese started coming into Da Nang. And so they just threw everything off the airplane, trying to put people on to get them out. And so we lost probably 80% of all the stuff I'd bought over there, and watches, coins, a lot of stuff like that. So we went to Saigon. And I had a lot of friends who were still up there, and they were trying to get out later on, and they were getting on planes, and the people were hanging on them. They hung on the wheel wells and got up in the wheel wells. I mean, there were still people on those planes when they landed later that were dead, and a couple of friends of mine tell me they were having to hit people to keep them off the plane because the plane was too crowded.
It was just like in bits and pieces. We always saw their wedding photos. And like I said, I don't even know the sequence of, I think, my dad had told my mom for a few days, like, hey, we're probably gonna have to leave. I know he had airplane tickets. I know that on the day that they were supposed to evacuate, they weren't gonna, I guess somebody was like taking payment basically over people who had tickets. And so, you know, my dad said like, hey, like I have tickets and I know you're taking basically bribes from other people and, you know, like I better be on this plane. And then I also specifically remember my mom, so they didn't want to board the Vietnamese like where everyone could see them. So they were gonna bus all the Vietnamese down to like the end of the runway, and then they were gonna taxi down there and pick them up.
After we got married, we went to Dalat for honeymoon, and we went to Dalat, and we so paranoid because we can't get out from honeymoon. When we stay in a hotel, and all people do is just stand up, talk about, you know, how far the Viet Cong come to it, you know, come closer, because they start from Hanoi and they come all the way from Hue and they come to Da Nang and they start coming south quickly. So you know, we need to get out, and we try to stay a couple of days, and a lot of, you know, we have to, and we pack our bag and we stay in the airport and we try to get out what the chaos, you know, so scary because we don't want to be captured from Viet Cong at all. And we tried to start some paperwork. So we start paperwork and they say not home. They say, no, you know, we're not ready to go yet, so we go back home. And next day we come back again and do more paperwork. They, you know, they ask a lot of questions, you know, well, you know, I don't know, you guys can go together because you don't, we have to send him back to United States because, you know, we reliable for his safety, and you don't have anything to prove us that we can take you over there. And send back home again. And at that time, I have my sister-in-law. She come from Da Nang. Okay, she said Da Nang was really terrible. She said, you know, she saw people dead on the river, just cover the body because commonly taken over. And I asked her, my family, okay, she said, yeah, your dad okay? My dad, she said, your dad don't want to go to Saigon because he big family. So he tried to stay there and keep everybody calm. But she said my older brother still there, but she just barely get to the boat and get to Saigon because her family in Saigon. So I told her, well, you can have all my furniture, all stuff, because I can't carry with me. So she said, okay, with the chaos then. And the next morning we went to Air Bay again. And at that time, you know, you see so many people stay outside the Air Bay, you know, they keep you on the money, all the gold, you know, take my kid, you know, please take my kid to U.S. So we went in Air Bay, and that stopped right hand and I. They put all the wife and the kid in the school boat, and they got us with machine gun because they are afraid that husband gonna come get them. So we have 2-3 people with machine gun, you know, got us, and they took all American in the boat, and they took them all the way out, far from Earth. I mean, so far away from they packed them up to afraid, you know, something wrong with all Americans, so they parked airplane very far away. So they took all the husbands out there, and they lived right in here. And they refused to let us come with the husband.
Finally, one day we went in, filling out paperwork again, and finally the guy running, I can't remember what he was, probably a colonel, came out and said, you take anybody you want, you know, grab them, grab your bags, and get on that bus. And they put people that had visas and passports like myself on a bus. And they took my wife that didn't have paperwork and all those people and put them on another bus. And they took us and ran us through customs and went out the runway and put us on a 141. And we sat there for an hour with the engines running and nobody else showed up. So I got up and told them I was going to get off because I wasn't going to leave without her. And about 10 minutes later, the other bus shows up. She gets on. They had to go around the back way, and they actually had to run through the gate, by the guards and stuff, and just go as fast as they could go to get to the airplane. And we got on there, and we went to, and they flew us to the Philippines. And we're all in there, and they take my wife and they go down and they ask her all sorts of questions. They're more or less interrogating on her criminal history or anything she did like that and stuff like that. And they give her, she had about 2 or 3 physicals during that time, make sure she didn't have any diseases they weren't going to let in and stuff like that. And then one day I was just kind of standing outside and somebody came up and said, well, they're going to have a plane at the airport. People you need to get all your stuff and if you're going to go out and get to the airport. So we picked up all our stuff, went to the airport, and they had a 747 that they'd stripped out almost everything they could, and we had well over 400 people on that plane, and they flew us to Guam, and we got to Guam, and they put all of us on this bus, and they took us down to this compound. This compound hadn't been open since 1947. And we went in there, they ran the trucks around trying to mash down the weeds. About a half hour later, they brought out boxes full of blankets and stuff and just threw them out on the ground. So I grabbed up some boxes and some blankets and found a barracks that had a wall in it where we could get some shade, because it's in Guam, it's super, super hot. It's 108, 115 degrees in the daytime. And I made a resting place for us there. And they came out 50-gallon barrels full of rice and 50-gallon barrels full of vegetables, and just more or less threw them out on plates and gave them to us. I'd gotten 2 or 3 other people, a half dozen other people, and we went to the front gate, and the general was there, and I talked to the general. I said, look, General, people are starting to get dysentery and get sick already in that short period of time. I said, we can't put up with this. So he said, well, wait a little bit. We're going to try to process you out and get a lot of you out of here today. So they processed us out, put us on a bus, took us to a naval base about 20 miles away, and left us on the tarmac all day long. More or less, no food, just water. And so we stayed there, and we came back, put us on a bus, took us back. They were supposed to take us back to a school so we could shower and eat, stuff like that. On the way back, I saw all of our luggage laying in a drainage ditch. All of it just laying there. I mean, there's hundreds of bags in there. So when I got back there, found a bus driver, and he got a bus, and I found about a dozen other people, and we went back and we picked up all of our luggage, and I took it back to the school. And I got back, I took a shower, and I was going to eat something, and they said, you got to get on a plane because we're leaving. So we picked up all of our bags, got on another 747, and went to Hawaii for a little while. And then they took us to San Francisco, and more or less did you've been through customs and all that. They did only thing they did in customs, make sure you didn't have drugs, basically have guns and stuff like that, and sent us out, and they put us outside the door and said, you're on your own. And we're at Travis Air Force Base in Fairfield, California, which is 90 miles from San Francisco. So you got to get a taxi. So I got a taxi with another guy and his wife, and we went to San Francisco, stayed there a couple days, then went to Iowa.
I have to go take blood test every single day because they don't want, some kind of disease. And a lot of people, we are so glad that I married Hank because he's American, so he can take me out.
I know that my dad's dad was, it's a small town in Iowa, extremely prejudiced. Just lily white town. I even distinctly remember my dad's relatives using the N-word to describe black people still, when I was 20-something years old. That was something that was completely normal to them, you know? And so I remember my grandpa not being very welcoming of my mom. I remember her telling me that he told my dad that she wasn't like as dark as, you know, he thought she was going to be. And I mean, eventually, I think as much as his parents could, I mean, they grew to love my mom. I mean, my mom called them mom and dad, you know. I think my grandma was definitely more accepting. I mean, I think my dad's dad was just kind of a jerk all around, you know.
It's really different for me because, you know, first of all, my hair all fall off because the weather changed. So, you know, and I sleep, I get up in the morning, my hair just falling down. I don't know why. Yeah, just a lot of hair. We have to live with his mom and dad. So he tried to get a job. But the first thing he tried to take care of me, and he took me up to Omaha, Nebraska to get all my paperwork squared away before, you know, he can go get a job. And I go back there and they do the paperwork and we have to go a lot of hassle and take a lot of blood tests. At that time, I looked at myself and said, I don't know, I had no more blood to take anymore. But they did, and we get all this way away. And he mom and dad didn't have a country store, and it's really different. I was hungry for Vietnamese food because we don't have. We used to eat rice and fish salt and all those stuff, and they don't have anymore. So I have like eat like the canned soup, and his mom. She don't understand what I'm saying. Half the time, every time I talk to her, she said, "Hank, tell me what she's saying." Hank said, "Mom, you need to listen to her."
My mom loved her. My dad was a very prejudiced person. My dad, by the time I brought her home, which was 1975, was 71 years old. But my wife worked her butt off. She put up with it, and he got to like her real well. But most of my relatives liked her. I mean, I didn't have any pushback or anything from the relatives. I grew up in Iowa. People aren't like they are a lot of places.
His mom is so sweet. His dad just kind of, you know, different. You know. First thing he looked at me, he said, "Well, I thought you were darker than that, but you're okay. Your skin okay." Yeah, the way he told me. He said, "I thought you have darker skin." And he hardly talked to me, you know, stop say hi, but she is sweet, you know, she tried to talk to me, she tried to communicate to me. She's a sweet lady, she's the most sweet person ever, yeah. And Han's family, he have a lot of cousins and aunt and uncle, and they accept me very well. Yeah, they welcome me, so I don't have any issue with that.
And most of the people around, we lived there for a couple of years, most people around pretty much accepted her. Occasionally, I mean, not occasionally, and it still happens, we'll go to a store and somebody won't wait on her because she's Vietnamese or she's Asian or whatever. Most of the time she takes care of it herself. I see it, but she takes care of it herself.
One thing that really bothered me a lot, you know, every time we went to the store, we went somewhere else, they just look at me and hang, just look like, you know, where you come from, what you doing here. But bothering inside me, but I don't think, you know, that important to me, you know, because I know who I am, but we have like a look, people look weird, you know, it's just where I'm come from, I guess, and my accent, but I don't have that bother me.
You know, I think people think because she had an accent, like, you know, either she didn't understand them or, you know, didn't have like the intelligence to understand them. And I you know, and what's funny about that, so that's another thing I just now thought of. So when we were, even like at a very young age, like my mom would have us like make calls to people and things like that and take care of things because she knew that people struggled to understand her. And so I distinctly remember, you know, taking care of things like that where, you know, she had to talk over the phone. I remember going into stores where people would like, you know, treat her poorly because, you know, she was Vietnamese. And what's funny is I've noticed, I don't even know how long it's been, but like I've noticed that she has become like overly friendly towards people who help her. I've noticed that over, you know, maybe the last 10 years or so, that she will be like overly friendly to people like who are helping us. Just, I think, you know, to, I guess maybe compensate for the fact that she thinks that they might think like she doesn't know English or, you know, can't understand English or whatever it may be. But yeah, no, definitely. And I'm sure she felt that in Utah a lot.
We live in Iowa. He went to learn how to fly. And after he get out of school, it's a lot of money at that time for flight. And we broke. We went back to Iowa. And after we went back in Iowa, he had to go to school for computer maintenance. And we have, when I got pregnant, my first child, so he get a job for Motorola. So we moved to Salt Lake City, Utah, at Christmas Eve, after New Year Eve, we went over there. At that time, he made about $7.50 an hour. He moved from Motorola. I say, if we want a better family future, you know, he said, you need to go get a job. So I said, okay. So National Semiconductor at that time only half mile from my house, West Georgia. So he said he's over every day. And he said, they say hi, why can't you go get a job? So I went over there and I interviewed and they hired me.
One was born on the bicentennial year of the United States on July 4th, 1976. My dad's birthday is July 4th, so they have the same name. So, and then my other daughter was born in 1979, and they both live here. One lives my older daughter lives probably wide of this room from us in a townhome, and the other daughter lives down in Mansfield. The other daughter down in Mansfield's got 3 kids, 2 girls and a boy, and then my older daughter's got 1 boy.
When I worked national in Utah, the shift I worked from 3 to midnight. So we had said, well, you know, we don't want to put kids in daycare, so I worked that shift. So he worked there so he can come home and take care of the kid. I get up, you know, take them, fix breakfast, take them to school, and pick them up, cooking, and went to work. And they stay home. They stay home and they walk to the street, cross street my neighbors, and stay there until I get home only.
I think I found it like very difficult growing up there, not being Mormon, you know, and I mean, honestly, there weren't a lot of minorities where I grew up anyway. Just, you know, not being a lot of, being a minority. I found it very difficult growing up there, and I don't know if I've ever even mentioned this out loud, but like I was almost ashamed of my difference there because it made it very hard to fit in.
So my supervisor promoted me to lead, and after the lead, I had my baby, and he said, well, you need to come back here. I have a supervisor opening, so I can faculty supervisor opening. I worked in Salt Lake City for 16 years. And they announced the plant was shut down. So they said, well, you know, you have anybody in this facility have opportunity to sign up for the Texas Arlington plant. So I signed up for it. And before the plant shut down, they sent me down here for interview for the job. And I have a manager. I used to work for him up in Salt Lake. So I come down there and met him. They offered me the job.
So I remember in particular one year, actually, you know, this happened a couple of years. So my mom would get our coffee table and put like the pictures of like people who had passed and, you know, the food offering. And then they also did like a fake money, you know, they sell like the fake money in the stores, and they'd have this money offering and then a little pot for the incense. And I remember distinctly her putting that out on the front porch. And I was just like mortified because I'm like no one's gonna understand like what that is, you know? That was just so, like, I guess embarrassing is the best way to describe it, but I mean, it sounds very superficial, but I guess you kind of are when you're that age. And then at the end, she would go out onto the sidewalk and like light the money on fire, like in the front yard. And I was just like, oh my gosh. I was like, oh my gosh, what are people gonna think? Like just praying that like no one like drove by when my mom is like burning paper on the front sidewalk, you know? So, I mean, but, you know, I mean, I wasn't, you know, I'm not like permanently scarred from my childhood or anything. You know, I had non-Mormon friends. I had good Mormon friends. It was just, I feel like just being there made me more ashamed of my background instead of embracing it. Whereas I felt like once I moved here, and even now, like I can really embrace it now. So but you know, I mean, normal, happy childhood, you know, both my parents worked, you know, definitely pushed me very, very hard to do well in school and to even, you know, get into the honors classes and AP classes. And I did feel very pressured, but I think that's a cultural thing. I mean, I think, you know, there's a lot of kids that come from Asian backgrounds that feel pressured to do well in school and, you know, just completely focus on studying. And, you know, looking back, like, and I think I've tried to do this, I think me and, you know, his dad have tried to do this with Ethan, but, you know, I feel like, that was a lot of stress, you know. I mean, I felt like all I did was go to school and study and, you know, work. And I just was such a serious person, I think, even at such a young age. And, you know, I've kind of tried to not do that with Ethan just because I feel like I want him to have the opportunity to be a kid, because there's plenty of time to like be an adult.
My grandma's from Vietnam. Grandpa was an Air Force veteran, and he was over there for, I think, he was over there for 5 years. He was in the Air Force for 3 years, then he came back as a civilian, I think, for 2 years. They were married over there, they came back, I had my mom, I had my aunt, then they lived in Iowa and Utah and now in Texas. So I remember, like, my mom would drop, on summers, my mom would drop me off in the morning, and he was the only one up in the morning, because my grandma would go to sleep really late and wake up really late, and so she would be up around noon or so, and so I'd just hang out with him in the morning, eat breakfast, run errands with him, and all that kind of stuff. Then we would come back in the afternoon, my grandma would be awake, she'd make me some rice, I'd have some rice, and oh, I love Vietnamese food. I love pho, bung goon, I think that's how I'm trying to say it. I love egg rolls, rice and fish sauce, and yellow noodles. We called them yellow noodles, but they're the egg noodles. We love those. So when she was younger, or like 10 years ago, she'd make homemade pho, and that stuff was the best. Like I remember she was in the kitchen all day making it. She would wake up early, even though she went to bed super late, and just make pho for us, and it was really good. We would just go, just the three of us, my grandpa, my grandma, and me. And and I would just follow her around. And I always thought that the Vietnamese people, like, they just spoke, so I just thought it was cool hearing them talk. So it was just kind of funny, but it was cool hearing them talk. So I liked watching her go in there and just do her stuff with all those people. And taking her shoes off, I feel like that was, I think my grandma, I think that was like when my mom was a kid, like they did that. And so I guess like that's kind of carried over. She would set up like a little altar or something on Chinese New Year. And that's about it. We'd go to dim sum for Chinese New Year. Because no one really knows that I'm Vietnamese, like just by looking at me. And so when like I'll tell people that, and they'll be so surprised. And I feel like that flag, like it just, I don't know what I'm trying to say. I think it's so cool that my grandpa went over there and met my grandma and came here. I think it's just their story from meeting over there and coming back over here and like having a really good family. That's all I think about when I think of Vietnam.
At a young age, I was expected to, clean the house every week, do everyone's laundry every week, I remember some of my high school friends teasing that basically I did everything around the house except for pay the bills. And so if my friends see that, then it's very apparent. Even in college, I remember doing weekly, I would do some of the weekly shopping and stuff, for non-food stuff. So I think that has to do with my mom's upbringing. But yeah, there's just a lot of pressure to basically take care of your family.
We celebrate Chinese New Year. Every year we get together. We keep our lisi, the red envelope. They eat a lot of Vietnamese food. I cook a lot of Vietnamese food for them. We communicate a lot about, between my family and from Vietnam, to them. We write them a tradition. It's Vietnamese, not American, because we believe that the Vietnamese tradition is really different than American. So, we believe Vietnamese tradition in our family.
She went back in 2005, and because I can't remember why she went back. I think just we decided that was a good time for her to go back, and she went back and visited everybody, and it was a good visit for her. And in fact, she got to see her mom and dad and all of her brothers and sisters. She went home in 2005. Her mom died, I think, in 2007, and I think her dad died about 2009. So I really enjoyed Vietnam. I love Asia. I think it's probably the most beautiful country in the world.
Now he has he'll wear the hat and he has the license plate cover and things like that. But I honestly think he struggled with that for a long time. And I think it was because of, the attitude towards the veterans when they returned. I'm sure a lot of them felt shame for that for a really long time.
South Vietnam still my country. Only issue I have with, I heard the news and I heard a lot of feedback from my friend. I still have family over there, and even my brother. I have brother and sister still in Vietnam. And they took a lot of property, put people in prison. It's not the same anymore. Not the same the South that we used to live on. People live in scare. We look around, see who look at you, and what are you gonna do? And they come in your house and just, hey, we want this, get out. And a lot of people give up their business, their money, their house to come over here to get some freedom.